Chosen one, don't scroll. God paused everything to tell you this. When you are told not to scroll and to pause for a moment, it is not about fear or pressure. It is about creating space to notice what your own mind and body have been trying to tell you. In a world that constantly pulls your attention in different directions, pausing is an act of self-respect. It allows you to step out of automatic motion and into awareness. Awareness is where meaningful change begins, because you cannot improve what you never notice. This moment is not about being chosen over others, but about choosing to become more present in your own life. Stay with this message until the very end, because understanding grows as each layer unfolds. And write your warmest wishes in the comments and include the number 144 as a personal symbol of intention, focus, and positive expectation. This is the only place where wishes are mentioned, because from here forward, the focus moves into awareness, responsibility, and learning how to listen to what truly supports your growth. Now, chosen one, press the hype button, like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to the channel, and let's start. Pausing does not mean that everything outside of you has stopped. It means you are choosing to stop long enough to check in with yourself. When you slow down, you may begin to notice how tired you are, how focused or unfocused you feel, what has been stressing you, and what has been quietly motivating you. These signals are easy to miss when you are always moving, reacting, and consuming new information. Attention brings clarity, and clarity changes decisions. You may begin to notice that your mind has been operating on autopilot. Habits, routines, and reactions can carry you through days without much conscious choice. Autopilot is not wrong, but it can keep you repeating patterns that no longer fit who you are becoming. Pausing gives you the chance to update those patterns instead of staying locked into them. Another reason to pause is to recognize how much pressure you may have been carrying. When life feels busy or uncertain, the nervous system often stays in a heightened state. Over time, this can make it harder to think clearly, sleep well, or stay patient. Slowing down even briefly helps your body reset, which improves your ability to respond rather than react. You may also notice that your attention has been fragmented. Notifications, messages, and constant input can make it difficult to focus deeply on anything. When focus is scattered, progress becomes slower and more frustrating. Pausing helps you reclaim control over where your attention goes, and attention is one of your most powerful tools for shaping your future. Another important aspect of pausing is reflection. Reflection allows you to ask whether your current direction matches what you truly want to build. Many people stay busy without checking if they are building the right things. Awareness gives you the chance to adjust course before small misalignments become major detours. You may also begin to notice emotional patterns that usually stay hidden beneath activity. Feelings of frustration, uncertainty, hope, or determination may surface when things get quiet. These emotions carry useful information about what matters to you and where growth is needed. Pausing also gives you a chance to recognize your own effort. When you are always moving forward, it is easy to overlook how much you have already handled and learned. Acknowledging your progress builds confidence and reduces the feeling that you are always behind. You may also notice that certain worries repeat in your mind. Repetition often signals unresolved concerns that need attention rather than avoidance. Pausing allows you to identify what those concerns are and begin addressing them with intention. Another benefit of slowing down is improved decision-making. When you rush, choices tend to be reactive. When you pause, you can evaluate options more carefully and choose responses that support long-term stability rather than short-term relief. You may also recognize that some goals you are chasing were chosen out of habit, comparison, or expectation rather than genuine interest. Reflection allows you to refine your goals so they align better with your values and strengths. Pausing also helps you notice physical signals. Fatigue, tension, and restlessness are messages from your body that deserve attention. When you listen to these signals, you can adjust your pace and protect your health. You may also become more aware of how your environment affects your mood and productivity. Noise, clutter, and constant stimulation can increase stress without you realizing it. Awareness allows you to make small changes that improve your daily experience. Another important aspect of pausing is recognizing what you can and cannot control. Many worries are about things outside your influence. When you pause, you can redirect energy toward actions that are actually within your reach. You may also notice that your inner dialogue becomes clearer. Thoughts that were buried under constant activity come into focus. This gives you the opportunity to challenge unhelpful beliefs and strengthen more supportive ones. Pausing also creates space for gratitude. Gratitude does not mean ignoring problems. It means recognizing resources, support, and progress that already exist. This perspective strengthens resilience and motivation. You may also recognize that you have been postponing certain decisions or conversations. Awareness brings these areas into focus so they can be addressed rather than avoided. Another benefit of slowing down is improved emotional regulation. When you are calmer, it is easier to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. This skill protects relationships and supports better outcomes. You may also begin to notice patterns in how you spend your time. Some activities may feel draining, while others feel energizing. Paying attention to these differences helps you design days that support both productivity and well-being. Pausing also helps you reconnect with purpose. Purpose does not always appear as a dramatic calling. Often it shows up as a quiet sense of what feels meaningful and worth building. Awareness helps you hear that signal. You may also realize that you have been stronger and more adaptable than you gave yourself credit for. Recognizing resilience builds confidence for future challenges. Another important reason to pause is to prevent burnout. Constant effort without recovery eventually reduces effectiveness. Pausing allows your system to reset so you can continue with clarity and energy. You may also notice that your priorities become clearer when you step out of constant activity. What truly matters tends to stand out when distractions quiet down. Pausing can also reveal where you are outgrowing certain habits or environments. Growth often brings discomfort before it brings clarity. Awareness helps you navigate this transition intentionally. You may also recognize that some fears are based on past experiences rather than present reality. When you pause, you can separate what is happening now from what happened before. Another benefit of slowing down is improved creativity. When your mind is not overloaded, it becomes easier to generate new ideas and solutions. You may also notice that your patience increases. Rushing often comes from anxiety about outcomes. Pausing reduces that anxiety and allows you to trust gradual progress. Pausing also helps you notice opportunities that are easy to miss when you are distracted. Sometimes small openings lead to significant changes over time. You may also become more aware of your boundaries. You recognize when you are saying yes too often or taking on more than you can manage. Awareness allows you to protect your energy. Another important aspect of pausing is learning to sit with uncertainty without immediately trying to fix it. Some clarity comes only after time and experience. You may also notice that your sense of self becomes more stable when you are not constantly comparing yourself to others. Pausing reduces exposure to constant comparison. Pausing also supports better learning. When you reflect on experiences, you extract lessons that improve future performance. You may also recognize that you have been postponing rest, assuming you will relax later. Pausing reminds you that recovery is part of productivity, not separate from it. Another benefit is improved focus. When you reclaim your attention, you can direct it toward what truly supports your goals. You may also notice that your confidence grows as you make more intentional choices. Each thoughtful decision reinforces self-trust. Pausing also helps you reconnect with values. Values guide decisions when situations are complex or unclear. You may also realize that growth often feels subtle at first. Awareness helps you recognize changes that are already happening within you. Another important effect of pausing is reducing unnecessary stress. When you slow down, many perceived emergencies lose their intensity. You may also become more aware of how you talk to yourself during difficulty. Awareness gives you the chance to replace harsh self-criticism with constructive guidance. Pausing can also improve relationships by helping you listen more carefully and respond more thoughtfully. You may also recognize that your goals are evolving. What mattered before may not matter in the same way now. Another benefit is improved adaptability. When you are attentive, you can adjust strategies instead of repeating ineffective ones. Pausing also strengthens emotional resilience. You process experiences rather than carrying unresolved tension forward. You may also notice that your sense of direction becomes clearer when you are not constantly reacting to external demands. Pausing gives you the chance to reconnect with what feels meaningful, not just what feels urgent. As this first part settles, understand this clearly. Nothing here is about pressure, fear, or obligation. It is about awareness, presence, and responsibility for your own growth. When you pause long enough to notice your thoughts, emotions, and patterns, you give yourself the opportunity to change them. That opportunity is powerful because it places your future back in your own hands. What you do with that awareness, how you choose to respond, and how consistently you apply what you learn will shape what comes next. And that is why this moment of attention matters. As you continue practicing this kind of attention, you may begin to notice that your sense of choice becomes stronger. You no longer feel as if everything is simply happening to you. You recognize moments where you can pause, redirect, and respond differently. This awareness creates space between stimulus and reaction, and in that space, new outcomes become possible. You may also notice that your emotional reactions become easier to identify. Instead of feeling generally overwhelmed, you begin to recognize whether you are anxious, disappointed, frustrated, or uncertain. This clarity matters because different emotions require different responses. When you can name what you are feeling, you can address it more effectively. Another shift is how you handle discomfort. Instead of immediately distracting yourself, you stay present long enough to understand what the discomfort is teaching you. Sometimes it is signaling a need for rest. Sometimes it points to a boundary that needs strengthening. Sometimes it highlights a skill that needs developing. Attention turns discomfort into guidance rather than something to escape. You may also notice that your focus on external noise begins to decrease. Opinions, trends, and comparisons lose some of their power over your decisions. You become more interested in what aligns with your own values and goals. This internal orientation protects confidence and reduces unnecessary pressure. As your awareness sharpens, you may start seeing connections between your habits and your results. You recognize how sleep affects patience, how planning affects stress, how communication affects relationships. These connections empower you because they reveal where change is actually possible. You may also notice that your sense of responsibility becomes calmer. You accept that you cannot control everything, but you also recognize where your effort truly matters. This balance prevents both helplessness and burnout. Another important development is how you approach mistakes. Instead of immediately judging yourself, you become curious about what led to the outcome. You analyze patterns rather than labeling yourself as a problem. This mindset encourages growth instead of discouragement. You may also find that your daily routines begin to feel more intentional. You start designing your mornings, your work time, and your rest in ways that support focus and recovery. Structure becomes supportive rather than restrictive. As you continue paying attention, you may notice that your goals become clearer and more specific. Vague hopes begin turning into practical plans. This clarity increases motivation because you can see how effort connects to progress. You may also become more aware of when you are mentally overloaded. Instead of pushing through exhaustion, you begin prioritizing recovery. This self-respect protects your long-term effectiveness. Another shift is how you experience waiting. Waiting no longer feels empty or pointless. You use quieter periods to prepare, learn, and reflect. This productive waiting strengthens readiness for opportunity. You may also notice that your sense of urgency decreases. You stop feeling like everything must be solved immediately. This calm allows better judgment and reduces impulsive choices. As your attention becomes more stable, your confidence in your own judgment may increase. You trust your evaluations more readily. This trust reduces second-guessing and hesitation. You may also find that your communication improves. You express needs and boundaries more clearly. You listen more carefully instead of preparing defensive responses. This improves understanding and cooperation. Another important development is how you relate to your past. You stop replaying mistakes as evidence of limitation. You begin seeing them as training that improved your current awareness. This reframing strengthens resilience. You may also notice that your sense of purpose becomes less abstract and more practical. Purpose shows up in how you manage your time, care for your health, and invest in learning. This grounded purpose supports consistency. As you continue this practice of paying attention, you may become more aware of emotional triggers. You recognize situations that reliably produce strong reactions. This recognition allows you to prepare and respond more skillfully. You may also find that your tolerance for disorganization decreases. You seek systems that reduce mental clutter and save energy. This order supports clarity and productivity. Another shift is how you handle social dynamics. You stop over-explaining or over-performing for acceptance. You engage more authentically and allow relationships to adjust naturally. This authenticity protects emotional energy. You may also notice that your creativity increases. When your mind is not constantly overwhelmed, it becomes easier to generate ideas and solutions. This creativity supports problem-solving and innovation. As attention strengthens, you may also experience increased gratitude for stability, learning, and growth. You appreciate progress even when it is quiet. This appreciation stabilizes motivation. You may also find that your emotional recovery time shortens. You process stress and return to balance more quickly. This resilience preserves momentum. Another important development is how you manage expectations. You stop expecting perfection from yourself and others. You focus on improvement and cooperation instead. This realistic outlook supports progress. You may also notice that your sense of independence grows. You rely more on your own discipline and systems rather than waiting for ideal conditions. This independence strengthens confidence. As awareness becomes part of your identity, you may also recognize when you are slipping back into autopilot. You catch it sooner and re-engage with intention. This self-correction protects long-term growth. You may also find that your relationship with silence becomes more comfortable. You use quiet moments to think, plan, and restore. This mental space supports clarity. Another shift is how you respond to feedback. You listen without immediately defending yourself. You extract what is useful and apply it. This learning orientation accelerates development. You may also notice that your sense of responsibility toward your future increases. You make choices today with tomorrow in mind. This foresight supports stability. As you continue paying attention, you may also experience increased calm during uncertainty. You trust that you can adapt as situations evolve. This trust reduces anxiety. You may also find that your priorities become more aligned with your values rather than external expectations. This alignment strengthens authenticity and satisfaction. Another important development is how you handle internal pressure. You stop motivating yourself through fear and start motivating yourself through purpose. This healthier motivation supports consistency. You may also notice that your emotional balance improves even during busy periods. You protect routines that support recovery and focus. This stability preserves health. As this second part settles, understand this. Paying attention is not a one-time moment. It is a practice that gradually reshapes how you think, feel, and act. Each time you pause, observe, and choose intentionally, you strengthen your ability to direct your own life. This ability compounds over time. It turns ordinary days into opportunities for steady improvement and transforms challenges into lessons that build competence. What is changing is not only what you notice, but how much influence you now have over your own direction. And that influence is the foundation of every meaningful transformation that follows. As this awareness continues to strengthen, you may begin to notice that your sense of internal authority grows. You trust yourself more when making decisions, even when outcomes are uncertain. This does not mean you stop considering advice or information from others, but it means you no longer abandon your own judgment. You weigh input, reflect, and then choose with confidence. This ability to decide without constant reassurance is a major step toward personal stability. You may also notice that your emotional reactions become less extreme. Situations that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. This does not mean you stop caring. It means your nervous system is learning that not every challenge is a threat. This emotional steadiness allows you to think clearly instead of being driven by fear or urgency. Another shift is how you experience motivation. Instead of waiting to feel inspired, you act based on commitment. You understand that action often creates motivation, not the other way around. This change increases consistency and reduces dependence on fluctuating moods. You may also find that your patience with yourself improves. You stop expecting immediate perfection and begin appreciating steady improvement. This patience supports long-term growth because it prevents discouragement when progress feels gradual. As you continue paying attention, you may notice that your self-respect deepens. You honor your own time. You keep promises to yourself more often. You stop tolerating habits that undermine your goals. This respect strengthens confidence and discipline. You may also experience a shift in how you handle mistakes. Instead of hiding from them or overanalyzing them, you correct and move forward. This practical response saves emotional energy and keeps learning active. Another important development is how you manage stress. You recognize early signs of overload and intervene sooner. You adjust schedules, reduce unnecessary commitments, and prioritize recovery. This proactive approach prevents burnout. You may also notice that your focus improves. You can concentrate on tasks for longer periods without constant distraction. This deeper focus increases both productivity and satisfaction with your work. As your awareness grows, you may also become more intentional about setting boundaries. You protect time for rest, learning, and meaningful work. You decline obligations that conflict with your priorities. These boundaries support balance and prevent resentment. You may also find that your emotional awareness becomes more refined. You distinguish between frustration, fatigue, anxiety, and disappointment. This clarity helps you choose appropriate responses rather than treating all discomfort the same way. Another shift is how you approach long-term planning. You think beyond immediate outcomes and consider sustainability. You ask whether your current habits can support the future you want to build. This foresight improves decision quality. You may also notice that your sense of identity becomes less dependent on circumstances. You remain grounded even when situations fluctuate. This stability protects confidence during both success and difficulty. As attention becomes habitual, you may also recognize when you are falling into old patterns. You interrupt them earlier and replace them with healthier responses. This self-correction prevents cycles from repeating. You may also experience increased clarity about what drains you and what energizes you. You organize your days to include more of what strengthens you and less of what depletes you. This energy management supports sustained performance. Another important development is how you handle feedback. You listen carefully, evaluate objectively, and apply what is useful. You do not take feedback as a personal attack. This maturity accelerates improvement. You may also notice that your tolerance for unnecessary conflict decreases. You choose calm communication over escalation. This approach strengthens relationships and reduces stress. As your awareness deepens, you may also become more strategic with your effort. You focus on actions that produce meaningful results instead of spreading yourself thin. This efficiency supports progress. You may also find that your emotional reactions to uncertainty become calmer. You trust that clarity will develop as you stay engaged and observant. This trust reduces anxiety. Another shift is how you experience self-doubt. Doubt still appears, but it no longer stops you. You acknowledge uncertainty and act anyway. This courage supports momentum. You may also notice that your daily routines become more supportive. You design habits that protect focus, health, and learning. These routines reduce reliance on willpower. As attention continues to shape your behavior, you may also experience increased discipline without harshness. You guide yourself firmly but compassionately. This balanced discipline supports consistency. You may also find that your expectations of others become more realistic. You communicate needs clearly and accept limitations without resentment. This maturity supports healthier interactions. Another important development is how you handle pressure. You break large challenges into manageable steps. This problem-solving mindset prevents overwhelm. You may also notice that your confidence becomes quieter and more stable. You do not feel the need to prove yourself constantly. You let your actions speak. This confidence supports leadership in your own life. As your sense of responsibility grows, you may also become more aware of long-term consequences. You choose habits that support future well-being rather than immediate comfort. This foresight strengthens stability. You may also experience increased willingness to learn from others without feeling inferior. You seek knowledge as a tool for growth, not as proof of weakness. This openness accelerates development. Another shift is how you manage emotional expectations around progress. You accept that growth includes setbacks and plateaus. This acceptance protects motivation. You may also notice that your attention to detail improves. You care about quality and follow through. This professionalism increases trust and opportunity. As awareness continues, you may also recognize when you need to slow down instead of pushing harder. You respect your limits without losing commitment. This balance protects health. You may also find that your communication becomes more confident and respectful. You express opinions clearly without needing to dominate or withdraw. This balance strengthens influence. Another important development is how you interpret challenges. You view them as opportunities to strengthen skills rather than as signs of failure. This growth-oriented perspective supports resilience. You may also notice that your tolerance for distraction decreases. You protect focus by limiting unnecessary inputs. This intentionality supports deep work. As your identity becomes more aligned with self-leadership, you may also experience increased satisfaction from consistency rather than from external praise. This intrinsic motivation supports long-term engagement. You may also find that your emotional reactions to others' success become more neutral. You feel inspired rather than threatened. This mindset supports collaboration and learning. Another shift is how you experience waiting periods. You use them to refine systems and strengthen habits. This preparation makes you more ready when opportunities appear. You may also notice that your sense of control becomes more realistic. You stop trying to manage everything and focus on managing your own actions and responses. This realism reduces stress. As this third part settles, understand this. Paying attention is gradually transforming how you lead yourself. You are becoming more intentional, more emotionally steady, and more capable of navigating complexity without losing direction. These changes may feel subtle day to day, but they are building a foundation of stability, discipline, and self-trust that will support every opportunity and challenge ahead. You are not just observing your life anymore. You are actively shaping how you move through it, and that shift is powerful because it gives you influence over what your future becomes. As this awareness continues to deepen, you may begin to notice that your sense of responsibility becomes more integrated into your identity, rather than something you have to force. You no longer see discipline as a temporary effort, but as part of how you naturally operate. This integration makes consistency easier because it no longer feels like you are fighting yourself to do what supports your future. You may also notice that your emotional reactions to pressure continue to stabilize. Instead of feeling overwhelmed when expectations increase, you begin organizing your response. You break tasks into steps, seek information, and manage your time more deliberately. This practical response keeps pressure from turning into paralysis. Another important shift is how you handle competing priorities. You stop trying to give everything equal attention and begin ranking what truly matters. This clarity allows you to invest your energy where it actually creates progress, instead of spreading yourself thin and feeling constantly behind.